So that moment I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I was just shivering because of fear, and my worst fear had come at that moment. I was being judged for the thing that I was afraid of being judged. My lack of self. I got a job 2 weeks ago, or rather I became a wage cut 2 weeks ago. And if you have watched my videos about my fears and my introverted behavior, then you'll wonder, how did this guy get a job? So this is the purpose of this video. How I got a job, and how you, as an introvert or a Hikikomori who is afraid of talking to people, how you can get a job. So I'm really introverted and shy, and this is how I got a job. As I was walking down the street, it was raining. I only heard the sound of the thunder and the splashing of my feet on the rain-soaked road, and as I was walking down, I suddenly got this feeling of anxiety, and I was afraid that I would be living like a Hikikomori for the rest of my life. And at that moment I got an inspiration to suddenly walk out to the next store or the next building and ask for a job. And I walked down the street and I came across this big store. I realized that this was a newly built store that would require a lot of employees to function. So I thought that maybe I have a chance to walk up to the owner and ask for a job. And I was afraid that if I asked for a job, I would be ridiculed. And my previous fears, my fear of rejection, what if the owner says that I'm not adequate? What if he says that I'm not wanted for the job? Or my fear of judgment, what if I get the job and then I fuck up on the job and get scolded at or get laughed at? I couldn't bear to have those disparaging things said to me, so I hesitated at the door. I asked myself, should I go in or not? And then suddenly this fleeting vision came across my mind of me being old and regretting at the decisions that I took, or rather the decision that I didn't take. Then I decided that I would walk up to the owner and ask for a job. So I opened the door and walked inside this brightly lit store. Everything outside was overcast and dim because of the weather, but inside this was blindingly light. So I walked up to the counter where this old man was sitting, and I was walking. I looked left and right, and I saw these employees working there, and I realized that this was a pharmacy and the employees were helping other people to get their medicine. So I walked up to the owner and stopped there, not knowing what to do, what to say. And then I said, fuck it, I'll just say it. What could go wrong? And I said, while I stammered, I said, can I get a job? Or then I suddenly said, do you need any employee? And then he looked up to me, and then he looked left and right as if he was counting his employees, or if he needed anything, or if he needed any extra employee. And then he asked me where I had worked before, and then I said I didn't work anywhere before. I had never worked a day in my life. So he looked up to me and slowly nodded his head, and then started laughing, just let out a full guffaw, and I was stuck and confused and also embarrassed. And the other employees and the customers were looking at him and me, just furtively looking at him and then me. And then this owner stopped laughing and suddenly said,
"You've never worked before, you're not qualified for this job."
And then he smirked and said, "Where were you before? Living under a cave? Why haven't you gotten a job before?" So that moment I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I was just shivering because of fear, and my worst fear had come at that moment. I was being judged for the thing that I was afraid of being judged. My lack of self-sufficiency. And because I didn't know what to do, I just started running. I ran out of that store and then ran straight towards home, never wanting to work in my life. Psych, that's a made-up story. That's not how it went. This is how it went. I got a call from my father. He said there's a pharmacy in town that needs an employee. And then at the evening, I went to this pharmacy. I opened the door, went inside, and walked straight to the owner and said, and by the way, the owner was a doctor. I said, "You need an employee?" I said, "Yeah, take a seat." And then a few hours later, I was behind the counter and helping with the other employees. So the lesson is that whatever fears that you have in your mind is just in your mind. They don't exist. And the thing that you fear the most will someday become just a mere indifferent matter. For me, getting a job was a huge matter, and I didn't know how to get it. So now I have a job. I became a wage cut. And I realized that holy shit, it's not as different as doing something else that is as scary. But when you do that, you suddenly get rid of that fear. Then that thing becomes really easy. So now I could walk up to any building or store, and even if I'm not qualified, I could ask for a job because I've jumped over that hurdle. I'm just rambling, let me get straight to the point. How to get a job as an introvert? It's really easy. If you're shy to ask someone physically, face to face, like I did, you have to do what I did before that. You should ask online. So many stores have online accounts, so that's where they advertise. You can go to the page and ask them if they need an employee. I'll assure you that they will not judge you, but they will instead answer if they need or not. So I asked a couple of stores online if they needed someone, a worker, someone who would help them. And they straight up said that they didn't need an employee, and if they needed, they would message me. Second thing is ask a friend. Most people are shy to ask their friends because they're afraid that they will be judged by their friends. Especially if you're a Hikikomori who has never been in contact with his friend for the last 4 or 5 years. Because when you ask for your friend for a job, you suddenly get this feeling that they will judge you. You will start overthinking that maybe if I ask this person for a job, or if I ask for help, they will just straight up think that I'm a loser and that I don't have a will of my own to go out there and ask. And what I did was I didn't ask a friend. Instead, I asked my father if he knew someone who needed an employee. I didn't ask for a specific job. Mind you, I have never had a strong relationship with my father. So me asking him for a job was like asking an old friend, someone who you knew somewhat and then you've never had a close connection with. That's basically my relationship with my father. But when I asked him and let him know that I was looking for something, looking for help, and he basically found me a job. And here's another tip. This is something that you should do if you want to ask for a job face to face. I know this sounds really cliche. When you walk up to a store, you just think of your deathbed. Just realize that you'll die someday, and no matter if you get rejected or if you get ridiculed or judged, you should just accept that and move on, because one day you will die and your embarrassments, achievements, fears will die with you. And about the Hikikomori videos, since I'm not a Hikikomori anymore, I'll keep making Hikikomori videos because that's a topic that's really important. That's an area where I think I have experience and knowledge about, and I believe that I can help more people.